सिद्धिविनायक मूर्ति की जय। गोपिका जीवन स्मरणं गोविंद गोविंद। जानकी कांत स्मरणं जय जय राम राम। नमः पार्वती पते हर हर महादेव। आंजनेय मूर्ति की जय। सद्गुरु स्वामिना जय। काशी यात्रा पांच द्वारकें पंढरी च जान एक यात्रा। काशी यात्रा पांच द्वारकें पंढरी च जान एक यात्रा। Moksha, one that has been much talked about and speculated since time immemorial, one that has been discussed in various forms in various religions, one that has been in demand for a long time. Moksha is to stop the cycle of rebirth and death and to become one with the Lord. In order to attain this, it is believed that one must visit Kashi 5 times or stay in Dwarka for 3 days. But visiting the Punya Kshetra of Pandharipur, the abode of Lord Vittal, just once guarantees moksha. In this holy place, Lord Vittal is celebrated by the people as their king, while the uncrowned prince of Pandharipur is Sant Namadev. Sant Namadev was an ardent devotee of Vittal. Not one moment passed when he did not utter the Lord's name. Around the same time, Sant Kabir claimed that God had no form and no color, and he was as one assumed him to. Roop nahi, rang nahi. To show him that Vittal had a form and it was the most beautiful and magnificent of all, Namadev once invited him to Pandharipur. Seeing Vittal dancing to the tunes of Sant Namadev's song, Sant Kabir was astonished. Overjoyed by the wonderful sight of a dancing Vittal, Sant Kabir sings, Namadev Kirtana Gari Prema Paranatsa Panduranga. Namadev Kirtana Gari Prema Paranatsa Panduranga. Janabai Hane Deva Boluma Bhanga. Janabai Mane Deva Boluma Bhanga. Namadev Kirtana Gari Prema Paranatsa Panduranga. Namadev Kirtana Gari Prema Paranatsa Panduranga. Abhanga Bole Dam Kirtani Ranga Odavala. Abhanga Bole Dam Kirtani Ranga Odavala. Prema Chiya Sandim Deva Natsulagala. Namadev Kirtana Gari Prema Paranatsa Panduranga. Nachata Dolata Devacha Kalala Pitambara. Nachata Hari Dolata Hari Nachata Hari Dolata Hari Nachata Hari Dolata Hari Nachata Hari Dolata Hari Nachata Dolata Devacha Kalala Pitambara. सावत हुई देवा ऐसे बोले कबीरा. नमदेव कीर्तन गरी प्रेम परनाथ पांडुरंगा. नामयाची जानी लोले चंदाम सेवाही. नामयाची जानी लोले चंदाम सेवाही. जनन मरण बासुनी मुक्त करके बिठवाई. नमदेव कीर्तन गरी प्रेम परनाथ पांडुरंगा. प्रेम परनाथ पांडुरंगा. Sant Namadev wanted everyone in Pandharipur to experience the bliss of uttering and listening to the Lord's name. So he began organizing bhajan sangams in his house on a daily basis, where people from the neighborhood would come and rejoice in the praise of the Lord. But as days passed, the people who came to the sangams started reducing. It was then that one of his neighbors told him that the men had to go to do their jobs and the women had to cook and do other household chores. Namadev did not want such hurdles to obstruct the coming of Pandharipur Nivasis to the Bhajan Sangam. Therefore, he announced that food will also be provided in the Bhajan Sangam to encourage the participation of devotees. Hence started the tradition of Annadhana. Namadev was not from a very wealthy household. He lived in a joint family which in the true sense of the word was big, unlike today's joint families which involve only 4 members. No one in the house was unhappy with Namadev's decision of providing food in the Bhajan Sangha, although it meant that the women in the house had to cook and cook all day long. They readily accepted the chores that came along with the organization of the Sangam with complete devotion. Those days, they didn't have ready-made atta or frozen food spicing up the market. From grinding wheat to flour, to preparing the dough and making rotis, everything had to be done manually, and yet they did it with smiles. Vittal himself would bring provisions for the Annadana. And so, days passed, soaked in devotion in the holy kshetra of Pandharipur. Soon the famous Pandharipur Utsavam began. People from various places came to worship the Lord, and the ever-busy Pandharipur began buzzing with additional energy and activity. Just like we have a lost and found section in big events, the temple also had a lost and found section. It was a common practice for the people of Pandharipur to take whatever they wanted from the lost and found section on the completion of the Utsav. One such time when Namadev was returning from the temple, he saw that a huge crowd had gathered around the entrance. In the midst of the crowd was a small girl, hardly 5 years old. Her face was filled with innocence and tears stained her cheeks as she stood at the gate of Vittal's temple, crying. Lost items the Pandharipur Nivasis could take, but who would take a small girl? Moved with pity, Namadev went to the girl and gently lifted her chin up. Who are you, child? Where are your parents? To this, the little girl replied with a song. Maya meli baap mela, Maya meli baap mela, Maya meli baap mela, Adam sambhali Vitala, Maya meli baap mela, Adam sambhali Vitala, Maya meli baap mela, Adam sambhali Vitala, Maya meli baap mela, मी तुझे मालिक करूं, मी तुझे मालिक करूं, ना गो मजसी अभीरुं, ना गो मजसी अभीरुं, माया मेली बाप मेला, मदिमंतमी तुझे दासी, मदिमंतमी तुझे दासी, तावद्यावा पाया पासी, सकल जीवांश जीवना Lord Vittala is by my side, how will such evils even bother me? Namadev was astonished by the deeper meaning that the song of the little girl held. He knew almost instantly that this girl was no ordinary one. Great sons like Namadev had Jnana Drishti. With this insight, Namadev saw that the girl was the rebirth of Kubja, a great devotee of Krishna in the Dwapar Yuga. Kubja was deformed. She used to grind sandalwood for cons to earn a living, but always yearned to see Krishna. Krishna cured her deformities and gave her youth and beauty. She received a boon from Krishna that in her next birth she would be his ardent devotee and always be by his side. Namadev knew that this little girl was none other than Kubja. "What is your name?" he asked. "Jenny," she replied in a timid voice. Despite the population boom in Namadev's house, he decided to take Jenny home. Namadev told his mother that he had brought Jenny home to help in the household chores. Namadev's house was just across the street where the temple was, and all Jenny could think of was that she could visit Vitthal whenever she felt like it. Though Namadev told his mother that Jenny had come to lend a hand in the household chores, he told his wife not to burden this little girl with too much work and to treat her as she would treat their own daughter. His wife, though unwilling to give Jenny chores, was forced to do so because of the additional work that came with the organizing of the bhajan sabha. Therefore, Jenny had to keep working. Be it making cow dung cakes or grinding wheat, she was caught in something or the other. This did not allow her to visit the temple even once since the time she had come to Pandharpur, which made her extremely upset. One such day, Sant Namadev's mother, JANABAI, asked Jenny to fetch water from the river Chandrabhaga. Jenny filled the pots, but she was unable to lift them, being the tiny girl that she was. She uttered the Lord's name and tried lifting the pots multiple times, but the pot would not budge. She almost gave up when she saw a girl coming towards her. The girl was dressed in the most beautiful pitambar silk lehenga. Her oiled hair was combed into 2 braids which hung below her shoulders, adorned with a nose stud and bangles jingling in her hands, a gopika chandan on her face. The girl looked divine. She came up to Jenny. Jenny assessed the girl. Her heart had a small yearning to wear the beautiful attire that the girl was dressed in, instead of the torn ones that she was wearing. She was but a little girl. "Jenny, are you finding it hard to lift the pot? Don't worry, I'll do it for you." The girl gracefully lifted the pot and placed it on her hip. "How do you know my name?" "And no, I'll take the pot myself. If Guna Dadi finds out, she'll scold me," Jenny said. "I'll bring the pot up to the doorstep, and then you can take it inside. Guna Dadi won't suspect anything," the girl said, walking ahead with the pot on her hips. "Who are you?" Jenny asked. The girl smiled mesmerizingly. "I have many names. Some call me Rangamma, some call me Krishnamma. Whichever name you call me, if you call me with all your heart, I will come." From then on, Rangamma helped Jenny do all the household chores, from fetching water to grinding flour. Rangamma Maji Rangamma Ho Rangamma Maji Rangamma Hari Re Rangamma Ji Hari Re Krishnamma Ji 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 Rangamma Maji Rangamma Ho Rangamma Maji Rangamma Muktabalanattanangi Pitambara Anga Jangi Muktabalanattanangi Pitambara Anga Jangi Mukta Bala Nattarangi Pitambara Anga Jangi Mukta Bala Nattarangi Pitambara Anga Jangi Sharani Vali Vyali Vangi Rangamma Rangamma Maji Rangamma Oh Rangamma Maji Rangamma Devuda Pauli Utti Maji Mavuli Devuda Pauli Utti Maji Mavuli Vishranti Sisavuli Rangamma Rangamma Maji Rangamma Oh Rangamma Maji Rangamma Vithe Bai Nithe Ubi Saje Chandra Bhage Tiri Namayachi Kaivari Rangamma Rangamma Maji Rangamma Oh Rangamma Maji Rangamma Hari Re Rangamma Ji Hari Re Krishna Maji Hari Re Rangamma Ji Hari Re Krishna Maji Hari Re Rangamma Ji Hari Re Krishna Maji Rangamma Maji Rangamma Oh Rangamma Maji Rangamma. Time flew, and one of the greatest and most revered saints of all times, a soul so pure, Sant Jnaneshwar, visited Pandharipur. All sons who came to Pandharipur visited Namadev's house before they went to the temple. Likewise, Sant Jnaneshwar too went to Sant Namadev's house first, and after freshening up, he went to the temple. Normal people like us can see only the stool roop of the Lord, that is, we can see only the statue form. However, great Mahans like Sant Jnaneshwar and Namadev could see the Sukshma roop of Vittal. That is what he was doing at that moment. Lord Vittal, who always welcomed Sant Jnaneshwar in a majestic form, with his hands on his hips and his head held high, was not to be seen in that form this time. When Sant Jnaneshwar entered the temple, he saw Lord Vittal sitting on a stone pedestal and writing something on a palm leaf booklet. As soon as Vittal saw Sant Jnaneshwar, he hid the palm leaf booklet behind his back and smiled brightly at Sant Jnaneshwar. Jnaneshwar, Swagatam, Swagatam, Vittal said, the smile still plastered on his face. Pranams Prabhu, what were you writing? Jnaneshwar asked, peering behind Vittal's back. Writing? Me? Nothing? I wasn't writing anything. Then what is it that you are hiding behind your back, Prabhu? Oh, so you saw it. I was writing a song, Vittal said, bringing the booklet out from behind his back. A song? About whom? Jnaneshwar asked. Lord Vittal suddenly looked a little embarrassed. About myself, he said a little hesitantly. Sant Jnaneshwar was shocked. Prabhu, I understand that it is normal in Kali Yuga for people to write songs about themselves. But when we sons are there to sing your praise, why do you have to write songs about yourself? It is true that I am writing this song, but at the same time, I haven't written it, Vittal said laughingly. Sant Jnaneshwar just looked at Vittal, waiting for a less confusing answer. There is a little girl in Sant Namadev's house. Her name is Jenny. She doesn't look very scholarly, but she keeps singing songs about me. However, she neither has the time nor does she know how to write. That's why I am writing her abhangs, so that they become famous in the future. Sant Jnaneshwar was astonished. Vittal was writing the songs sung by a little girl. He grabbed the palm leaf booklet and read the verses of the song. Kaya karumya karmasi, nasha ho ayushyasi, tujhe paye roop dolam nahi dehi lambopal. What karma have I done? My years of youth are flying away. I yearn to see you. You know that my situation does not permit me to come and worship you. But won't you come and see me? Sant Jnaneshwar was speechless when he saw these verses. The depth of the song moved him. Prabhu, you are writing the song, but did you understand the meaning of it? Sant Jnaneshwar asked. Vittal laughed merrily. I understand what you are getting at, Sant Jnaneshwar. I was waiting for your arrival. Go tell Jenny that I am coming tomorrow. I am coming specially to see her. Sant Jnaneshwar took his leave from Lord Vittal and hurried to Namadev's house to see this little girl. Upon reaching Namadev's house, he found Jenny in the backyard. Jenny was fighting with the neighbor. She kept yelling at the neighbor, accusing the woman of having stolen the cow dung cakes that she had made. The woman refused of having committed such crimes and argued that she had cows too and wouldn't need to steal such a petty thing from Jenny. Sant Jnaneshwar was dumbfounded. On one side, this was the girl who had written Kaya Karunya Karmas, and here was the same girl who was fighting fiercely for cow dung cakes. It was then that Jenny noticed Sant Jnaneshwar. Jnaneshwar ji, Swagatam, Swagatam, she said, welcoming the Sant. Jenny, I came to tell you something very important. And you are fighting for cow dung cakes? Jnaneshwar asked, still surprised. Jnaneshwar ji, if the cow dung cakes were mine, I would have given them away happily. But this is the property of the Bhagavatas. I will not let her steal it and get away with it. But Jenny, why would she steal cow dung cakes? Besides, how will you find out which cow dung cakes are the ones that you made? Sant Jnaneshwar asked. Ask her to break the cakes and the truth will be revealed, Jenny said with a resolute pair of eyes. The woman broke one cake. Jenny shook her head. The woman broke another. Jenny shook her head again. The woman broke a third cake and a loud sound, Vittal, filled the air. This one I made, she said, taking the cow dung cake from the neighbor's hands. Sant Jnaneshwar was speechless. Lord Vittal was not wrong to write the song of this little girl. Jnaneshwar took Jenny to the front of the house. He sat on a higher step while Jenny sat on a lower one. I'll sing a song, child. Will you tell me how it is? Sant Jnaneshwar asked. Jenny nodded obediently, and Sant Jnaneshwar began. Kaya karumya karmasi, Kaya karumya karmasi, Kaya karumya karmasi, Nashoto ayushyasi, Kaya karumya karmasi. तुझे पाय रूप डोला नाही देहि लंब पाला, तुझे पाय रूप डोला नाही देहि लंब पाला, काय करुण्या कर्मासी, नाश होतो आयुष्यासी, काय करुण्या कर्मासी. लले पुरमिसिया मुझे हने जनी प्रीत साचे, लले पुरमिसिया मुझे हने जनी प्रीत साचे, लले पुरमिसिया मुझे हने जनी प्रीत साचे, काय करुण्या कर्मासी, नाश होतो आयुष्यासी, काय करुण्या कर्मासी. As soon as Sant Jnaneshwar had started singing, Jenny lowered her head in embarrassment. She couldn't understand how Sant Jnaneshwar had found her song. How was the song, Jenny? Sant Jnaneshwar asked. Jenny didn't utter a word. Do you know how I found your song? Lord Vittal himself was writing it, Sant Jnaneshwar said. Jenny, who hadn't spoken all this while, said, did he understand the meaning? Sant Jnaneshwar chuckled. I asked the question on your behalf, child. He said he is coming tomorrow to meet you. He is coming specially for you, Sant Jnaneshwar said. Jenny was overjoyed. She thanked Sant Jnaneshwar and quickly began making preparations for Panduranga's arrival. She did everything with utmost care and love for Panduranga. The next morning, Vittal arrived. Dressed in grand attire and his signature mesmerizing smile adorning his face, he looked as charming as ever. However, Vittal was talking to everyone except Jenny. This made her upset, but she wasn't going to let this drain her spirits. Knowing that Vittal had come for Jenny, Sant Namadev asked Jenny to do Padabhishek for Vittal. Jenny's joy knew no bounds. While she did Padabhishek, she began singing. एक एक विठ्ठल बाई माझी पंढरीची आई, एक एक विठ्ठल बाई माझी पंढरीची आई, एक एक विठ्ठल बाई माझी पंढरीची आई, एक एक विठ्ठल बाई माझी पंढरीची आई. हो विठ्ठल विठ्ठल पांडुरंगा, विठ्ठल विठ्ठल पांडुरंगा, विठ्ठल विठ्ठल पांडुरंगा, विठ्ठल विठ्ठल पांडुरंगा. महिमा आणि चंद्रभागा तुझी शरणींशा गंगा, महिमा आणि चंद्रभागा तुझी शरणींशा गंगा, महिमा आणि चंद्रभागा तुझे शरणींशा गंगा. हो विठ्ठल विठ्ठल पांडुरंगा, विठ्ठल विठ्ठल पांडुरंगा, विठ्ठल विठ्ठल पांडुरंगा, विठ्ठल विठ्ठल पांडुरंगा. ಇದು क्या सहित ममायावे माझी रंगनी नाशावे, क्या सहित ममायावे माझी रंगनी नाशावे. विठ्ठल विठ्ठल पांडुरंगा, विठ्ठल विठ्ठल पांडुरंगा, विठ्ठल विठ्ठल पांडुरंगा, विठ्ठल विठ्ठल पांडुरंगा. माझा रंग तुझी आवनी हने नमयाची चली, माझा रंग तुझी आवनी हने नमयाची चली, माझा रंग तुझी आवनी हने नमयाची चली. हो विठ्ठल विठ्ठल पांडुरंगा, 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 विठ्ठल विठ्ठल पांडुरंगा. When it was time to eat, Jenny was very expectant and excited because she wanted to dine with Panduranga. But Gunabai instructed Jenny to serve the food instead. Jenny wasn't disheartened and she served with zeal. She had prepared the entire feast for the day and she wanted to see Vittal relish it. To her disappointment, everybody was eating the food and reveling at its deliciousness except Vittal. He didn't seem to like the food and hardly ate anything. She was almost moved into tears. Yet, she didn't let her disappointment reflect on her face. Once they had finished eating, Gunabai told Jenny to take the food that Lord Vittal had and eat it. This made Jenny a little happy because Panduranga's food was prasad for her. At night, Vittal had decided to stay over. She massaged his legs and then she went to eat the prasad. Jenny took one bite. Before she could take another, Lord Vittal was by her side. He took the food from Jenny and he began relishing it contentedly. Jenny was surprised. Prabhu, I thought you didn't like the food then, Jenny asked. Vittal smiled. Oh yes, one ingredient was missing. You hadn't tasted it yet, Vittal said as he continued to relish the food. Jenny was speechless. That was when Jenny remembered that she must grind wheat for the next day. So she began doing her regular chores. Vittal stopped her and started grinding the wheat. Too much work today? He asked as he ground the wheat. Yes, Prabhu. Usually Rangama Didi comes to help. I don't know why. Today even she didn't come. Jenny said, wondering. How will she every day? Vittal exchanged Jenny's clothes with that of Rangama's, for he knew of her yearning to wear them. By the end of the day, Jenny's heart was filled with devotion and immense gratitude towards her deity. Vittal returned to the temple the next morning. When the Pandits opened the temple, their fury knew no bounds. They found Panduranga's idol wearing the torn clothes belonging to the little girl in Namadev's house. His ornaments were missing too. On investigation, they found Vittal's clothes in Jenny's room. Enraged, the people of Pandharipur decided to punish Jenny. Those days, criminals used to be dropped onto a sharp pole, which in turn would split them into two. Blinded by fury towards the innocent little girl, it was decided that that same punishment be given to her. Seconds before this was carried forward, a voice came from the heavens, and Asariri spoke, loud and clear. Jenny has committed no crime. This was all my Leela, to make known Jenny's immense devotion. It was then that the people of Pandharipur realized that this little girl was a blessed child. From then on, she was known as JANABAI, and she became famous for her devotion. So did her abangs. Much later, when Vittal offered JANABAI a boon, she requested that the stairs of Pandharipur temple open and she go under them. She wanted the dust of the feet of the Bhaktas coming to visit Vittal touch her head before they saw him. That day, along with Jenny, Sant Namadev, Sant Jnaneshwar and so many more great souls descended into the steps of this holy day. Such was the devotion of JANABAI. Caste, creed, gender and color, all of these are man-made. All that God sees is one's heart and devotion. If these are pure and uncorrupted, Vittal will come. These are hard times. The world has come to a standstill. But on this occasion, let us all pray that this crisis be resolved soon. Let us pray, forgetting all other prejudices and breaking the walls that we have built between us. Let us pray to Vittal with complete devotion, and the world will be a better place. I thank Swatantra Foundation for giving me an opportunity to perform in the Bala Upanyasam series. I would like to express my immense gratitude to my Harikatha Guru Srimati Suchitra Balasubramanian, who initiated, guided and supported me throughout. I also thank my parents and my sister for their constant encouragement. Last but not the least, I thank all of you for listening to me patiently. Thank you. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.